On my girlfriend Claire's birthday. I proposed to her in front of all our friends and family. But just as I was down on one knee holding out the diamond ring, Claire's phone rang. It was her neighbor and childhood friend, Liam. "Claire, I baked a cake for you myself. Do you want to come over and try some?" After Claire hung up the phone, she didn't hesitate to leave me there to go eat cake. This was the 1000th time Claire had chosen Liam over me. By the time I finished cleaning up the mess alone, it was already night. I saw that Liam had posted on social media, "I can feel how much you value me." Every single time Claire was interacting with him in the comments, "You'll always be my first choice." I gave the post a like and then blocked and deleted him. In the middle of the night, while I was sleeping soundly, my phone suddenly rang. I picked up the phone with bleary eyes and saw it was a call from Claire. As soon as the call connected, Claire's accusations came flying at me. "Silas, what kind of drama are you starting now? Why did you block Liam on social media for no reason? It is the middle of the night, and he wanted to come over to apologize to you. I told you, Liam has clinical depression and is very sensitive. He cannot handle this kind of stress." I looked out the window at the pitch-black sky, feeling an unspeakable chill. "You called me at this hour just to tell me this?" Claire paused for a second, but when she spoke again, she sounded even more self-righteous. "What else would it be? Are you going to say something is going on between me and Liam again? If anything were actually happening between us, you wouldn't even be in the picture. Not to mention today, you were supposed to." She suddenly stopped, probably remembering how she had abandoned me earlier. I had heard Claire's excuses so many times. I had lost count. Now my heart felt nothing. "Yeah, I know nothing is going on between you two." Hearing my calm tone, Claire snapped, "Add him back right now," and hung up the phone. I wasn't going to add him back, obviously, since she had woken me up and I couldn't sleep. I got up to pack my bags, looking at the house we had lived in for 5 years. Every corner was filled with memories. Every inch was decorated according to Claire's taste. Claire and I had been together for 6 years and lived here for 5. In the beginning, we were the model couple in our friends' eyes. As long as I was free, I would pick her up and drop her off. After work, we would go to the market together, buy groceries, and cook dinner. On our days off, we would find a small town to travel to, or just curl up at home and watch a few movies. But all that beauty was shattered after Liam moved to the city for work. Claire said Liam had saved her when they were kids, and she couldn't just ignore him. Moreover, she was a psychologist and Liam suffered from depression. Ever since Liam appeared, whenever Claire and I were about to go on a date, her phone would ring. It was always Liam. He had a cold, or he cut his finger, or he was emotionally unstable and thinking about giving up on life. In all these years, he had threatened to end it all, at least 99 times. Once asked Claire how Liam could time his crisis so perfectly. Claire said dismissively, "Liam has no sense of security. I gave him my work schedule and tell him where I am." I asked her, confused, "Isn't that something only couples do?" To my surprise, Claire accused me of having a dirty mind. She said she and Liam were just friends, and told me to stop judging them. Over time, Claire spent every spare moment with Liam. We argued about it countless times. I always looked forward to a better future, based on her repeated promises. This time, I was done waiting. Early the next morning, Claire's parents and her aunt and uncle all showed up. As soon as they walked in, Claire's mother asked, "Where is Claire? Is she still in bed?" I gave a faint and different smile. "She hasn't come home yet?" Their faces darkened instantly. Claire's father patted my shoulder while saying to her mother, "Honey, call her and get her back here. A woman staying out all night with another man. What does that look like? Silas, don't take it to heart. You haven't had breakfast yet, right? We bought some for you. Come and eat." I looked at them and took a deep breath. I didn't say anything and just sat quietly at the table to eat. Claire's mother called her. Claire said on the phone that Liam's mood was still unstable, and she couldn't leave yet. Everyone looked at me awkwardly. I just smiled at them like it didn't matter. "Sir, ma'am, I have to go to work. You guys can wait for her here. I'm heading out." I changed my shoes, grabbed my bag, and left. There was a security camera in the house, and Claire's family was still there. I was busy at the office until noon, before I remembered to check the camera. Claire still hadn't returned. For some reason, I wasn't disappointed or angry. I actually felt a bit of relief. I knew it would end like this. The family waited until 2 p.m., and since Claire still wasn't back, they left. Claire's mother sent me a message, saying they already considered me family. She promised they would make Claire give me an explanation. This time, I didn't care about an explanation anymore. I just replied, "Busy with work," and stopped looking at my phone. Near the end of the day, I got a call from an old college senior, Sierra. She was asking for the last time if I wanted to move back to Chicago to work at the Design Institute. The salary was higher than my current job, and I wouldn't have to deal with annoying clients. I had turned her down before. It was because Claire and I had already bought a house here, and I was planning to propose. We were talking about marriage and planning for kids. Claire didn't want me to go either. She said she hated long-distance relationships. Okay, but I need to wait until I've handed over my current projects. Sierra was stunned for a second. She probably thought she'd need to work harder to convince me. Seeing that I agreed, Sierra laughed. Silas, you finally said yes. If you hadn't, I would have flown over there to drag you back. I will go tell the boss. The creative director position has been reserved for you. I thanked her, feeling a bit embarrassed. Sierra said, I should be thanking you. Things will be much easier once you're back. We chatted for a few more minutes before hanging up. I found a resignation letter template online, made a few changes and sent it to my boss. Less than 10 minutes later, my boss called me into his office. He asked if I was unhappy with something and why I was suddenly quitting. I told him I was going home. The boss hesitated and asked, what about your girlfriend? We're breaking up, I said. The boss told me to head out and that he would process the paperwork. Everyone at the company knew I stayed in Seattle for Claire. Now that we were breaking up, it made sense for me to quit. The resignation date was set for the 1st of next month. I counted the days. Exactly 20 days left. Thinking back, I had given up too much for Claire. She was an only child, and her parents didn't want her to leave Seattle. So I quit my job in Chicago and moved to the city alone to start over. Now it seems like none of it was worth it. While I was still young, I wanted to choose for myself for once. I had a lot of work on my plate, and I was going to be very busy for a while. I planned to officially tell her it was over right before I left. As I was about to leave work, a sudden heavy rainstorm started. That's when I got a call from Claire. You're off work, right? Come to Liam's place and pick us up for dinner. Hearing her bark orders so naturally made me wonder. Claire think I was some kind of pathetic loser who would drive across the city in a torrential downpour to get them. Granted, I had done exactly that many times before. But today, I wasn't going to degrade myself anymore. That is too bad. I have a company dinner tonight. I am busy. You can drop us off at the restaurant first and then go to your dinner. It will only take a few extra minutes. Or we could just eat at the same place you are going. It is on the way and you can drive Liam home after. Claire's tone was so patronizing, as if she were doing me a favor by letting me drive them. I do not have time, and it is not on the way. Just take an Uber. I hung up before Claire could explode. That night, I had dinner with a few colleagues I was close with, and had some drinks. During the meal, I told them I had resigned, and was planning to break up with my girlfriend. Dan, who was sitting next to me, said, Brother, are you finally waking up? I could not stand seeing you act like such a simp anymore. Another guy added, Seriously? Your girlfriend, and that neighbor of hers, are basically one step away from being in bed together. I joked, even if they were, I would not even know. Could tell from my tone that I really didn't care anymore. So they started toasted to my upcoming freedom. By the time the gathering ended and I got home, it was midnight. Claire was sitting on the living room sofa. When she saw me enter, she asked unpleasantly, Where were you? Why are you so late? I ignored her and walked straight toward the bedroom to get clothes for a shower. Claire stood up and grabbed my arm, frowning. Silas, what is your problem? I looked at her calmly. The face that used to bring me so much joy now felt like nothing. Is there something you need? I asked. Claire looked pissed. I asked you to pick us up, and you didn't. Now you come home late with this terrible attitude. Just as I was about to speak, Liam's voice came from the guest bedroom. Silas, have you been drinking? The smell of alcohol is so strong. I'm allergic to alcohol, and it is making me feel sick. I stared at Claire. I thought she had gone home after dinner with Liam, but she actually brought him here. I let out a cold laugh. If the smell makes you sick, should I leave? Or should you take Claire to your place? Silas, how can you have such a filthy mind? Claire shouted at me. Claire, is my mind filthy, or is yours just not clean? Stop trying to hide your guilt by yelling. I turned to look at Liam, who was standing by the door. Liam, Claire said you were unstable yesterday because I blocked you. You do not need to worry. I am not just blocking you. I am planning to block her, too. If you are so allergic to the smell of a drink, go back to your own house. Don't come into my home and judge me. I am not Claire. I do not know how to cater to the whims of someone with depression. Liam's face turned paler with every word I spoke. He sighed. Claire, I should probably go. Silas clearly does not want me here. You two should talk. It is late, and it is pouring rain. You are sick. Where would you go? Go back to sleep. Claire barked. So Claire knew it was raining. And dangerous for a sick person to be outside. Early last year, I got caught in the rain after work and came home with a high fever. I was practically delirious. Claire had been summoned by Liam for some reason. I called her and asked her to take me to the hospital. At the time, Claire said, "You are a grown man. What could happen to you? Liam needs me. Just call an Uber." Yeah, what does a grown man have to worry about? Liam didn't move. I was exhausted. I walked past him into the bedroom and locked the door behind me. Claire cursed at me from the other side, but I didn't care. I could hear Liam's manipulative woe as me act through the door. Who says men cannot spot a toxic person? I could see through him perfectly. I was not sure how their little drama ended. I was too tired, and with the alcohol in my system, I took a quick shower and crashed. The next morning, I saw Claire and Liam coming out of the guest room one after the other. When Claire saw me, she hesitated for a second before speaking up defensively. "You locked the bedroom door last night and wouldn't let me in." I had no choice but to sleep in the guest room with Liam. Liam chimed in from the side. "Yeah, Silas. We just slept in the bed. Nothing else happened." I looked at them strangely. It wasn't like I had even said anything yet. "Okay, good to know." I got ready to leave. Claire blocked my path. "Silas, are you still mad? We are practically engaged. We are not some young kids anymore. Can you stop being so jealous over nothing?" In her eyes, it was wrong if I fought with her and wrong if I didn't. Seemed like being with her was the real mistake. I just looked at her calmly. She looked away, feeling guilty. "Fine. I will admit I was wrong this time. Okay?" I shook my head. "You weren't wrong. And I am not angry. Let's not dwell on it. I am going to work." I walked out the door. As soon as I got to the office, Claire called me. She told me to come home early because she had a surprise for me. I figured it was better to clear things up sooner rather than later, to avoid more drama. So I agreed. The clock on my dashboard read 5:15 p.m. when I pulled into the driveway. The rain from earlier that afternoon had tapered off into a damp, hanging mist, leaving the asphalt slick and reflective under the streetlights. I sat in the car for a moment, listening to the rhythmic ticking of the cooling engine. 5 years of parking in this exact spot. 5 years of looking up at the warm light spilling through the living room curtains and feeling like I was coming home. Today, looking at that same window, I felt like a tourist standing outside a building I had once visited a long time ago. I picked up my briefcase, unlocked the front door, and stepped inside. The entryway smelled heavily of lavender and seared rosemary. On the dining table, Claire had set out 2 silver candlesticks, a bottle of vintage Cabernet, and 2 expensive ribeye steaks under glass cloches. Soft jazz was playing low on the Bluetooth speaker. Claire emerged from the kitchen wearing a velvet green dress, the one I had bought her for our 4th anniversary, the one she usually saved for formal galas. She had put her hair up, and her makeup was done impeccably. "You're home," she said, offering a bright, hopeful smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I know you were stressed this morning, so I wanted to make it up to you. I bought the steaks from that butcher shop you like in West Seattle. I even made the garlic butter from scratch." I stood by the coat rack, unbuttoning my jacket, taking in the scene. Then my eyes drifted toward the living room sofa. Liam was sitting there, wrapped in a plush gray throw blanket, sipping a cup of chamomile. He wore an oversized cable knit sweater that made him look small, pale, and defenseless. When he saw me looking, he gave a tiny, remorseful nod and pulled the blanket tighter around his shoulders. "Silas," Liam murmured, his voice fragile. "I told Claire she shouldn't have invited me to stay for dinner, but my anxiety was spiking again and she insisted I shouldn't eat alone tonight." Claire quickly walked over to me, lower lip tucked between her teeth, taking my arm with a sudden needy tightness. "Liam's doctor adjusted his medication today, Silas," she whispered, her tone carrying that familiar, practiced weight of clinical authority she always used to shut down my objections. "He's having severe side effects, hallucinations, palpitations. I couldn't just throw him out on the street. But look, I set everything up for us. Liam is going to eat in the study and you and I can have a quiet evening. We can redo last night." She reached into her dress pocket and pulled out a velvet ring box. She opened it to reveal the same diamond ring I had purchased 3 months ago with 6 months' worth of saved bonuses, the ring she had left sitting on the coffee table, beside a half-eaten slice of Liam's homemade cake. "I picked it up from the counter," Claire said softly, searching my face for a flicker of emotion. "I know I hurt you yesterday. I know the timing was bad.
But
I'm ready now, Silas. You can ask me again. Right here. Just the two of us. I looked at the ring. Then I looked at Claire. Then I glanced past her shoulder. At Liam, who was watching us intently over the rim of his teacup, waiting for my reaction. A year ago, 6 months ago, even 3 weeks ago, this gesture would have brought tears to my eyes. I would have convinced myself that she truly loved me, that Liam was just an unfortunate complication, and that if I tried hard enough, I could fix us. Now, looking at her holding out my own ring, offering me a second-hand proposal, in our own living room while her childhood friend watched from the couch like an audience member at a theater, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sorrow.
just a
Deep, overwhelming exhaustion. Keep the ring, I said quietly. Claire's smile faltered. What? Keep it, I repeated, my voice steady and unhurried. Sell it, return it, give it to Liam. Do whatever you want with it. Silas, don't be ridiculous, Claire sneered, her defensive posture returning. Instantly. I'm offering you an olive branch. I'm telling you I'm ready to move. Past your dramatic outburst from last night. What more do you want from me? I don't want anything from you, Claire, I said. I set my briefcase down and walked toward the hallway closet, pulling out 2 large hard-shell suitcases I had packed early this morning before her parents arrived. Liam sat up on the sofa, his fragile demeanor momentarily slipping as he watched me wheel the luggage into the entryway. Silas? What are you doing? I'm leaving, I said simple. Claire let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. Leaving? Where are you going?
a
Hotel? You're going to throw a temper tantrum and spend $200 a night just to prove a point. I rented a short-term executive apartment near my office for the next 3 weeks, I replied, rolling the suitcases toward the front door. After that, I'm moving back to Chicago. The room went dead silent. The jazz music hummed softly in the background. Claire stared at me, her eyes widening in disbelief. Chicago? What are you talking about? Your job is here. Your life is here. We live here. I turned in my resignation this morning, I said, looking her squarely in the
eyes.
My last day at the firm is the 1st of next month. Sierra offered me the creative director position at the Design Institute back home. I took it. Sierra? Claire's face flushed red with sudden fury. That college friend you haven't talked to in years? You made a life-altering decision about your career without consulting me? Because of a stupid cake. No, I corrected her gently. Not because of a cake. Because of 6 years of being a ghost in my own relationship. Because I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I was always going to be the man standing behind Liam in line. And I'm tired of waiting. Silas, listen to yourself. Claire took a step toward me, her voice rising, tinged with hysteria. Liam is sick. He has clinical depression. He relies on me. Because I'm a professional, and because I've known him since he was 5 years
old.
You are a grown, healthy, capable man. How can you be so selfish as to compare your need for attention with a man's mental health? I looked at Liam. He was staring at his carpet, playing the part of the wounded soul to perfection. If he's your patient, you're breaking medical ethics by sleeping under the same roof and letting him run your life, I said coldly. And if he's your friend, then you've chosen him over your partner every single day for 2 years. Either way, Claire, you two deserve each other. You don't need me here, as a third wheel, to validate your martyr complex. Silas, she screamed, her composure entirely shattering. You walk out that door right now and we are done. Do you hear me? There is no coming back from this. You don't get to crawl back when you realize how stupid you're being. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the silver key ring containing the keys to the house, the mailbox, and her car, and placed it quietly on the entryway console table next to the vase of fading birthday flowers. I know, I said. I picked up the handles of my suitcases, opened the door, and walked out into the cool evening air. I didn't look back, even as she slammed the door behind me hard enough to rattle the porch light. The temporary apartment was small, minimalist, and quiet, located on the 14th floor of a modern high-rise in downtown Seattle, overlooking the harbor. For the first 48 hours, the silence felt eerie. I was so accustomed to the constant background noise of Claire's life, her phone ringing at 2 a.m., her tense arguments with Liam, her endless explanations about why she had to cancel our plans, that having absolute peace felt foreign, almost uncomfortable. But by the third night, as I sat on the balcony with a warm mug of coffee, watching the ferries glide across the dark water of Puget Sound, the silence ceased to feel lonely. It felt like space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to exist without constantly walking on eggshells. At the office, I threw myself into finalizing my projects. I had 20 days to complete the handover for 3 major commercial developments. My colleagues, sensing the shift, were remarkably supportive. Dan, my senior project manager, walked into my office on Friday afternoon with a stack of blueprints and 2 cold cans of sparkling water. "How are you holding up, man?" Dan asked, sliding into the leather chair across from my desk. "You look surprisingly rested." "I am rested," I said, putting down my stylus. "I haven't slept 8 hours straight in 3 years." "Word around the office is Claire came by the lobby yesterday afternoon," Dan said cautiously, watching my reaction. "Security didn't let her up because she's not on your visitor list anymore. She was raising hell with the receptionist, saying you were holding her house keys hostage or something." I chuckled faintly. "The house is in both our names, but I paid 60% of the down payment. My lawyer is already drafting the buyout agreement. She can have the house. I just want my name off the mortgage." Dan shook his head, taking a sip of his drink. "You're a better man than me, Silas. If my ex left me at the altar or down on one knee to go eat grocery store cake with her neighbor, I would have cleared out the bank accounts." "It's not worth the energy," I said quietly. "The cleanest cut is the fastest one to heal." My phone buzzed on the desk. It was an email notification from Sierra in Chicago. "Silas, board approved the relocation bonus package. Your new office on Michigan Avenue has a view of the river. We start onboarding on the 5th. Can't wait to have you back on the team." I smiled and replied immediately, thanking her. As the days ticked down, Claire's efforts to reach me escalated from angry text messages to full-blown psychological warfare. When blocking her phone number didn't work, she began using email. When I filtered her emails to spam, her mother began calling me. It was on a Tuesday evening, 12 days before my scheduled flight, that my phone rang with an unknown number. Thinking it was a contractor from the Chicago firm, I answered. "Silas." It was Claire's mother, Eleanor. Her voice sounded strained, stripped of its usual haughty composure. "Eleanor," I said politely, setting down my pen. "If this is about the house, my attorney sent the paperwork to Claire's email yesterday." "Silas, please don't be like this." Eleanor sighed heavily. "I know Claire acted terribly. Her father and I haven't spoken to her in a week because of how she treated you on her birthday. We are utterly ashamed of her." "I appreciate that, Eleanor, but it doesn't change anything." "You don't understand." Eleanor pressed on, her voice cracking slightly. "It's a disaster over here. Ever since you left, Liam has practically moved into the house. He's sleeping in your bed, Silas. He claims his depression is so severe he can't be left alone for 10 minutes. Claire hasn't gone to work in 3 days because he threatens to hurt himself every time she grabs her car keys." I sat back in my chair, looking out at the twilight skyline. A cold wave of recognition washed over me. For years, I had been the shock absorber in that household. When Liam threw a fit, I was the one who cooked dinner, cleaned the kitchen, dealt with the utility bills, maintained the cars, paid the mortgage, and provided Claire with financial and emotional stability while she played savior to her childhood friend. Now that the shock absorber was gone, the entire machine was collapsing under the weight of its own dysfunction. Without me there to maintain reality, Claire was trapped in the very asylum she had built. "That sounds difficult for her," I said evenly. "But it's no longer my problem, Silas." "She's losing her mind," Eleanor pleaded. "She realized what she lost. She cried to me on the phone yesterday, saying she made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought you were just trying to scare her. She didn't think you would actually leave." "She knew I was leaving," I said. "She just didn't believe I had the self-respect to follow through. Please tell Claire to sign the mortgage release documents, Eleanor. Otherwise, my lawyer will file a petition suit to force the sale of the house." "Silas, wait." "Goodbye, Eleanor." I hung up and added the number to my block list. With 8 days left before my departure, I went to the old house one final time. I had arranged through my attorney to pick up my remaining personal belongings, my hand-drawn architectural drafts, my grandfather's vintage drafting tools, my winter coats, and my collection of rare design books. The agreement specified that Claire was to be out of the house between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday. I pulled up to the driveway at 10:30 a.m. in a hired moving van. The front yard, which I used to trim every Saturday morning, was overgrown and cluttered with junk mail blowing across the grass. The trash cans were overflowing at the side of the garage. I unlocked the front door using the temporary key provided by my lawyer. The inside of the house smelled stale, a mixture of unwashed dishes, stagnant trash, and sour milk. The sleek, elegant home I had spent 5 years maintaining looked like an abandoned estate sale. In the kitchen, the sink was piled high with dirty plates. On the counter sat the moldy remnants of the steak dinner Claire had cooked for my redo proposal 3 weeks ago. I walked into the living room and began packing my books into cardboard boxes. I worked methodically, focusing on the task, refusing to let nostalgia creep in. Looking for these? I turned around. Liam was standing in the doorway of the hallway. He was wearing my old silk bathrobe, the one Claire had bought me for my birthday 2 years ago. He looked unkempt, his eyes bloodshot, a smug, mocking smirk playing on his lips. He hadn't left, despite the legal agreement. "You're supposed to be gone, Liam," I said calmly, sealing a cardboard box with heavy packing tape. "This is Claire's house," Liam spat, taking a step into the room and leaning against the wall with exaggerated weakness. "She told me I didn't have to leave. She told me you were coming here to crawl back to her." "I'm here for my drafting tools and my books," I replied without stopping my work. "You can keep the bathrobe. It looks better on a parasite anyway." Liam's smile faltered, replaced by a sudden flare of rage. "You think you're so superior, don't you, Silas? Standing there with your high-paying job and your professional dignity. You always looked down on me." "I didn't look down on you, Liam," I said, looking him straight in the eyes. "I didn't care about you at all. You were just an inconvenience I tolerated because I loved Claire. But now that I don't love her, you're just a stranger standing in a mess of your own making." Liam took 2 quick strides toward me, his voice dropping into a low, venomous hiss. "You ruined everything," he snapped, dropping his fragile persona entirely. His eyes were sharp, bright, and utterly coherent. "She doesn't pay attention to me anymore. All she does is cry about you. She doesn't cook for me. She doesn't listen to me. She just sits in her room looking at old pictures of you two. I had her right where I wanted her, and you ruined it by quitting." I stopped packing. I pulled out my phone, which had been quietly recording audio from my coat pocket since the moment I walked into the house, a precaution my lawyer had strongly advised. "So your depression, your crises, the 99 suicide threats, it was all just a game to keep her attached to you?" I asked quietly. Liam laughed, a harsh, triumphant sound. "She's a psychologist, Silas. She has a savior complex the size of Lake Michigan. All I had to do was dial her number. Whenever you two were having fun, drop my voice an octave and tell her I couldn't breathe. She'd drop everything and run to me. She loved being the hero. And I loved watching you sit home alone like an idiot while she chose me." He stepped closer, invading my space, his jaw clenched. "I won, Silas. She threw you out on your ear on your proposal night for a slice of $3 store-bought cake. I proved that no matter how much money you make or how perfect you are, I will always own her." I looked at him for a long moment. I felt no rage, no impulse to hit him. I just felt an overwhelming sense of pity for him, and especially for Claire. "You didn't win, Liam," I said softly. "You just bought the trap." I tapped my pocket, stopping the recording. I picked up my box of drafting tools, lifted my suitcases, and walked past him toward the front door. "Where do you think you're going?" Liam yelled behind me. "I'm telling Claire. You laid hands on me. I'll tell her you attacked me." "Go ahead," I called over my shoulder as I opened the front door. "I've got 20 minutes of crystal clear audio recording. My lawyer will be thrilled to share it with Claire, her board of ethics at the psychology clinic, and her parents." Liam froze on the porch, his face turning ghostly white as the realization finally hit him. I loaded my boxes into the back of the moving van, climbed into the driver's seat, and drove away from the house for the final time. The final week in Seattle flew by in a blur of packing tape, corporate handovers, and quiet dinners with Dan and my work friends. On my very last night in the city, the firm hosted a low-key farewell dinner for me at a rooftop lounge overlooking the harbor. It was a clear, crisp night. The Space Needle glowed in the distance, casting long blue light across the city streets. Around 9 p.m., while Dan was delivering a hilarious, slightly drunken toast to my freedom. The glass doors to the rooftop terrace swung open. Claire stood in the doorway. She looked unrecognizable. Her hair, usually styled in pristine blowouts, was tied back in a messy knot. She wasn't wearing makeup, and dark violet circles bruised the skin beneath her eyes. She wore a simple rumpled trench coat over jeans. The chatter at our table immediately died down. Dan stopped mid-sentence, setting his glass down with a heavy click. Claire didn't look at anyone else. Her eyes scanned the patio until they locked onto me. She walked over to our table, her shoulders trembling slightly. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked shattered. "Silas," she whispered, her voice raw. "Please. I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes." My colleagues looked at me, waiting for my signal. I held up a hand, indicating it was fine, and stood up from the table. "Let's talk over there," I said, pointing to a quiet glass railing on the far side of the terrace, away from the group. Claire followed me like a ghost. When we reached the railing, she wrapped her arms tightly around herself, as if trying to keep from falling apart. "I heard the recording," she said, her voice shaking violently. "Your lawyer. He sent it to my mother this morning. My mother played it for me." I stayed silent, looking out at the dark waters of the Sound. "I threw him out," she choked out, a tear spilling over her lashes and running down her pale cheek. "I packed his bags and kicked him out of the house. I told him if he ever came near me or my workplace again, I'd file a restraining order and present that recording to the police." "Good," I said mildly. "That was the right thing to do." "Silas." She reached out, her fingers barely brushing the sleeve of my coat, trembling. "I was so stupid. I was so blind. He manipulated me for years, using my professional instincts, using my childhood memories against me. I thought I was saving someone. I thought I was doing something noble. And the whole time I was destroying the only person who actually loved me unconditionally." She sobbed, covering her face with both hands, her posture collapsing completely. "I broke up with him, Silas. He's gone." I cleared out the guest room. I threw away the cake pan, the old photos, everything. "I went to the butcher shop today. I bought those steaks again. I wanted to cook for you. I wanted to start over. Please, please come home." I looked at her. I saw the girl I had fallen in love with in college, the bright, passionate woman who used to laugh until her stomach hurt, who used to plan weekend road trips with me, who used to look at me like I was her entire world. That girl was gone. She had been eroded by years of emotional manipulation, vanity, and neglect, replaced by a stranger standing in front of me begging for a second chance only after her safety net had dissolved. "Claire," I said softly. She looked up at me, eyes wide with desperate hope. "I loved you," I said. "I loved you so much that I gave up my career in Chicago. I moved to a city where I knew nobody. I bought a house I didn't want, built a life around your schedule, and spent 6 years putting my needs behind yours, behind your parents' demands, and behind Liam's crises. I know, and I'm so sorry." "Let me finish," I interrupted gently. "I loved you through 99 fake emergencies. I loved you when you belittled my feelings and called me filthy-minded for asking for basic boundaries. I even loved you when you walked away from me on my knees on your birthday." Tears streamed down her face in silence. But on the 100th time, I continued, feeling a strange, weightless peace wash through my chest. Something inside me died. The love didn't turn into hatred, Claire. It just turned into nothing. When I look at you right now, I don't feel angry. I don't feel vindictive. I just feel nothing. "Silas, please," she whimpered, grasping my hand with cold, frantic fingers. "Don't say that. We can fix this. Therapy. We can go to couples counseling. I'll do whatever you want. I'll move to Chicago with you." I gently, firmly unclasped her fingers from my wrist and stepped back, creating a clear, unbridgeable distance between us. "No, Claire," I said. "You don't need couples counseling. You need to learn how to be alone. You need to figure out who you are when you aren't playing savior to a toxic man or using a loyal partner as a safety net." I adjusted my coat and offered her a small, sincere smile. "My flight leaves at 7 tomorrow morning," I said. "The house buyout papers are signed on my end. Sell the place, take the money, and build a real life for yourself. But do it without me." She stared at me, her hands hovering in the cold night air, finally realizing that no amount of tears, apologies, or dramatic gestures would ever pull me back into her orbit. The silence between us was final. "Goodbye, Claire," I said. I turned around and walked back to the warm, bright lights of the lounge, joining my friends as they raised their glasses to the future. Epilogue. The morning sun broke over the Chicago skyline, turning the reflective surface of Lake Michigan into a vast sheet of liquid gold. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new office on the 18th floor of the Design Institute. Below me, the city was alive with the morning commute. Buses hummed along Michigan Avenue, pedestrians walked briskly across the bridge, and the cold, crisp autumn air rattled softly against the double-paned glass. A knock sounded at my door. "Director Vance," Sierra said, leaning against the doorframe with two steaming paper cups from the coffee shop downstairs. "You're in early." "Couldn't sleep," I smiled, stepping away from the glass to take the offered cup. Still getting used to the silence. "Get used to it fast," Sierra laughed, walking over to the large drafting table in the center of the room, where my grandfather's vintage drafting tools were laid out neatly beside fresh rolls of traced paper. "The city board approved the Riverfront Gallery project this morning. You're leading the architectural design team. We kick off initial sketches at 10. I took a sip of the hot black coffee, looking down at the blank, white sheet of drafting paper waiting for me on the table. For 6 years, my life had been drawn in someone else's lines, constrained by someone else's boundaries, painted over by someone else's needs. I picked up my drafting pen, felt the familiar, comfortable weight of it in my hand, and pressed the tip to the paper. The line was clean, straight, and entirely my own.